to sum it up, I think, get to the point, I think what makes me rare, if not unique, is that I've spent the past 25 years working from everything from clinical exercise physiology, so being based in a huge, big district general hospital, helping people to recover and overcome cancer, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, you name it, chronic disease, musculoskeletal. That's the area I've operated in, all the way across to helping athletes get ready for the Olympics, Beijing, London, Rio, training people to climb Everest, row across the Atlantic, marathon dressage. So everything from the worst possible condition a human can be in, and I do mean that, all the way through to palliative care, right the way across to supporting humans to achieve and accomplish the most outstanding things the humans can possibly, kind of manifest. So that's where I've operated for a quarter of a century. My research interest has always hinged off fatigue and the parameters that create fatigue, both from a disease point of view, nutritional and performance. And to this day, I'm still strategically involved in a lot of health agendas with regards to health innovations, cities changing diabetes. I'm currently a part of the Advanced Clinical Practice Group working with Health Education England. And I've been a part of other kind of global strategies whereby we're trying to encourage people to live better lives. And typically that's through nutrition. I'm a registered nutritionist with the British Dietetics Association. I'm not going to go through all kinds of qualifications and things that I do, but that's kind of, I think, the area I've occupied. But to sum up what I do, I consider myself to be a knowledge broker. And people typically get in touch with me when they say, we want to know more about the truth of this. What's going on? What does the research say? And how should that influence our practice? And that's really where I operate. So I get, historically, I'll get called upon from everything from huge, big sports brands who are doing proof of concept for kit, all the way across to looking at the stuff that I'm really passionate about, which is epigenetics and what positive difference does food make to our health status. Because I've spent, again, 25 years criticizing the supplement industry and saying, you have the technology, why don't you produce products that are research informed and morally sound? I've been, I make no bones about it. I've been heavily critical because much of what's out there isn't really any better than anything else. And then I was made aware of Zinzino by a good friend of mine who'd been encouraged to take it for their health condition and was actually interested from a business point of view as well. And I set about debunking it. So I thought, right, I'll go on the website, I'll have a look, I'll tell them why it's rubbish, and then I can go back to life. And I had a look and I had a eureka moment. And I said, these guys are doing it. They are doing it. They have a scientific advisory panel. They have a health advisory panel. They are plugged in globally. They are research informed. They are not making wild, crazy claims. The evidence stacks up. The test procedure stacks up. And I recognize, because when you do what I do, Robert, in a nutshell, you're trying to make a difference. And that sounds a bit evangelical, but it's true. You just think it's the old values of kind of being here and trying to make the world a little bit better. And I've watched health deteriorate on my watch since a child. Things have got worse. And you want to interfere with that and you want to improve it. And I saw a company that had reach, that had impact, and that were person by person, making change easy, making it convenient, and making it profound. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to make that change. I want to inform. I want to be a part of that exciting process of informing how this company does what it does and make people's lives better. I spent half my life in laboratories. In fact, I was the lab director. The job I had before moving to the Zinzino, I was the lab director for the Queen's Laboratories in Greater Manchester, and then the sports science. There's a huge multi-million pound building called Bolton One, which has the NHS in it, and we have these sports science labs, and I was the lab director of all that. So looking at genetics and across, so lab-based test procedures, objective tests. Never mind what someone tells us, what's really going on. That's the area that I come from. Yeah. So I always put this the other way: is why don't most of the other providers of omega-3s, fish oil, why don't they do a test? Why, when you go to a really dodgy car lot to buy a car, they don't want you to test drive it? They'll do you a really good deal. I'll sell you cheap. I'm going to knock $1,000 off the price. Just buy it now. Why? Because they don't want you to really know what's happening. Okay. So I wouldn't, if I was selling standard cod liver oil, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't encourage you to do a test either. The last thing I'd want you to know is that not much is happening. So when you've got a confidence to go, okay, we've got a legitimate, lab-based protocol. It's objective, it's verified. Take it and see where you're at, and then make your decision after that. And if you're okay, then why would you ever even need to buy anything? If you've got it nailed on, and I mean this, if you're nailed on, if you've got that right, brilliant. That test should just be your way to say, what I'm doing is right, I'm okay, and move on with your life. But then if it's not, and we know that for the vast majority of people, it's not, unfortunately, because of a whole ton of changes that's happened to the way we behave in our diet, well then, here's a really effective solution for you to be able to improve it. And then you almost get to validate through your own experience whether or not the change is taking place. And it should take place within 120 days, because that's the turnover rate of the red blood cells. So if we're going to bring about a change in that, because that's what we're measuring, it should happen for most people. You should get a significant change within that time. And that really, for me, was one of the first things that made me think differently about Zinzino, because I knew all about the Trondheim test, Trondheim University, the red blood cell test. And then I checked out the labs. They don't even know to this day, but I actually rung them up. And the labs check out, it's essentially double blind. And that's a nightmare. As a researcher now working on the other side, the fact that there's so much control over the anonymity of those tests is really hard, because I'd love to do all kinds of analysis and stuff, and you can't, because it's so well managed. And the blood test is the blood test. It's a look under the hood. Never mind what you tell me, what's happening to you physiologically, what's happening to your blood lipid profile. So the reason why Zinzino has the confidence to do what it does, and to start with the test, start here, see where you're at, it's because they know the product's great. They know the product will do what the product needs to do. But the important thing is that you are made aware of what your status is, and also whether or not any real effective change comes about. So the test is everything. And it's sometimes, if you go online now, there's a ton of things and places that are selling different types of tests, and I totally get that. But the feedback has to match the quality of the analysis. So it has to make you better informed. You have to be able to do what we're doing now. You need to be able to communicate with the researchers and the scientists who are working behind the scenes. You need to be able to be in front of them to make sense of it, because with all due respect, I've no doubt there are people on this call. I couldn't do a day in your life, couldn't do your job at all, no matter if you tripled the pay. It's just beyond my skill set. So I respect that. And if I need your skill set, I will listen to you. And for the same virtue, when it comes to all this stuff, you guys need to be able to get front and center with people like myself and have a conversation about it to better understand it. So for me, the test is everything. And also, and I have to be careful how much I say here, Robert, really, but also the business model is everything for me as well, because nutrition and health should be based off a conversation and not a strap line in a shop. You can hide so much behind it, and you should be able to engage meaningfully and have conversations with the people that you are making purchases from, who are behind what is going on that you're receiving. I think of it, it's like we can take the world back 100 years, where you would know the farmer who'd grown the potatoes that were in your cupboard. You can have the conversation, and you can decide whether or not you like them or trust them or believe them, because you're upfront with them. And I think that's really important. I think in a world that has expanded and everything's become so anonymous from a business point of view, actually to go, no, we're going to have conversations direct with people, and we're going to build a community, and we're going to go on this journey together, because building the mental resilience required nowadays to focus on good health is challenging enough. making the right decision is challenging enough. You need to be able to speak to the people who are behind it. And it all starts with that test. It's objective. It's got nothing to do with my opinion or your opinion. It's going to tell us what's going on under your hood, within your system, and we can start from there. So it's everything. The test is everything.